Anyway, 428 Shibuya Scramble. So last time... we had some crazy stuff going on. Let's see. So we got to be continued over here by Achi. We got to be continued by Maria. We're still stuck in a bad end by Osawa. I'll be in the background crocheting. Nice. We have to do Minorikawa and Kano's stories here. So we're still trying to figure out in this hour what the deal with Kanon is. Hello, Pupcake. How are you doing? So I think we're gonna start with Minorikawa, where we left him. His laptop just bit the bucket. Bit the bucket? Yeah. You know, bit the dust and kicked the bucket. It bit the bucket. After many years of faithful service, right in the middle of one of the most important projects of his career. No! Minorikawa's cry of despair echoed throughout the cafe. His laptop monitor stared back at him, black and empty. Don't you die on me, buddy! He jabbed his finger sharply at the screen. But the computer gave no response, looking well and truly dead. What the hell? Minorikawa pounded his fist on the table. This would be a worst-case scenario, even if he were desperately pressed for time. Guess I'll just have to write by hand, then. He rummaged around the inside of his bag and pulled out a notebook. I can still do this, he shouted, doing his best to psych himself up for the task ahead. All the Wi-Fi cut out in my area? That stinks, I'm sorry. I will still do this. Hope it comes back soon. Excuse me, sir? The waitress appeared timidly beside him. What? Minorikawa snapped, his pencil flying across the paper. Sir, if you could please quiet down. My damn computer just broke. I'm allowed a scream or two. Minorikawa was in no state of mind to be quiet. If it weren't for the deadline he was racing to meet, he'd probably have gone on screaming until he passed out. Your computer is broken, you say? The waitress peered at the monitor. Yeah, look! It just suddenly stopped displaying anything. Could it be that, the battery is just dead? Minorikawa sat bolt upright. That's it! The waitress just flinched at Minorikawa's finger jab toward her face. I hadn't considered that possibility! Hey, let me plug it in somewhere! There's an outlet right there, sir. She pointed at an outlet by Minorikawa's feet, making no attempt to hide her exasperation. Minorikawa plugged in the power cable and the monitor sprang to life as normal. So, now that's sorted out, would you please be quiet, sir? Don't talk to me, you're interfering with my writing! Minorikawa's fingers had already begun dancing across his keyboard. With a sigh, the waitress disappeared back into the kitchen. Oh yeah, now we're talking. His fingers picked up speed as he went about touch typing. The act of typing on a keyboard without looking at the keys, the aspiration of computer novices everywhere. The typical method involves placing index fingers on the F and J keys, with the middle ring and pinky fingers resting on A, S, and D, or K, L, and semicolon keys to either side, from which all of the keys are easily reached. With practice, a touch typist can instinctively hit the correct key every time without looking. I am okay at doing this. Not great, but okay. When I was in school, we had a computer class where they taught us typing. I don't know if they do that anymore with kids because of autocorrect, but back in my day, we didn't have autocorrect. My computer class was actually with like DOS, like we had to enter commands into the computer to get programs to run. It was crazy. Anyway, enough about me being old. The pros and cons of surveillance cameras. Proprietor of outdated electronics shop oversees high-tech camera system. Bedlam and bogus weight loss drink sales demo. Bankrupted organizer remains undiscouraged. Now Minorikawa's spirits were riding high. His writing rolled along at a brisk pace. Sir? It was the waitress again, her voice yanking Minorikawa right out of his soaring mood. Sir! Now what? Has the President of the United States agreed to give me a one-on-one interview? The waitress's eyes went wide with confusion. Huh? Because unless it's something that important, do not speak to me right now. But she was undeterred. Sir, please, if you could just be a little quieter. Minorikawa's fingers ceased their rattling across the keys. Just what sound do you have a problem with? All I've been doing is writing a copy. Well, for the last while, actually, you've been talking while you write, sir. Talking? Minorikawa tilted his head in confusion. Yes, sir, you've been talking about an electronics store and some bogus weight loss drink. I assume that's what you're writing about? You're saying I've been narrating my copy aloud while writing it? Look at this face. That's right, sir. The customers sitting nearby were openly snickering. Well, so what? He snapped. He was red in the face now. You should all be delighted that you get to hear what I'm writing before the magazine goes to print. Well, actually, sir, one of our customers has been complaining. Complaining? Of all the nerve, who was it? Where are they? It's obviously Rumi's dad. Minorikawa scanned the other patients, many of whom were unsuccessfully trying to hide their laughter. It was me. Yeah, there he is. It was the grumpy older fellow who'd been making a scene earlier. Bogus diet fads, peeping security cameras, reminds me of that sleazy tabloid 4-star general gossip I hate so much. Oh, you sure seem to know a lot about it for someone you hate so much. For something you hate so much. The man's face twisted up with scorn. Your behavior is bothering everyone here, he said. Do you not understand that? No, I don't. Guess a reporter writes nothing but nonsense, prefers nonsense in everything he does. Minorikawa could feel his blood boiling. What was that? Go on, say that again! Oh, gladly. Nonsense. Filth. Codswallop. Flimflam! You bastard, how dare you! Minorikawa stormed over to the man's table. Flimflam indeed! Bogus or insincere content. Few things anger Minorikawa more than reporters using dishonest means to create a story. Having his own work called flimflam would naturally make him blow his top. Who are you calling? Just who are you calling flimflam? The other man stood up and glowered in Minorikawa's face. You utterly lack any manners or sense of decency for starters. I have plenty of manners and decency. I just also happen to have a deadline. Bah! As if flimflam arts like you has a work ethic. Stop calling me flimflam! The waitress inserted herself between the two men. Gentlemen, please stop fighting. I demand that you remove this man at once, the older fellow barked. He's the one you should be kicking out, Minorikawa shot back. But now he's ready to go for this guy's throat. Please, the waitress pleaded, both of you return to your seats. She grabbed onto Minorikawa and began to forcibly drag him back to his table. No, it's too late for that kid. Oh man, threw a punch at him? No way, he's gonna destroy us. Let's swallow our pride. Okay, just calm down. Minorikawa did his best to swallow his pride. If we try to punch this guy, he is going to absolutely destroy us. Whatever, he huffed. I don't have time for this anyway. He stalked back to his seat. The other man snorted and sat down with a scowl. The needless interruption, just when he'd finally gotten to writing mode, had all but killed Minorikawa's motivation. He decided he needed to take a breather. He turned to the waitress. One spaghetti Napolitan, please. Why does everyone keep ordering this? Spaghetti flavored with tomato ketchup. Napolitan is a corruption of Neapolitan, though the dish itself has no connection to the Italian city of Naples, Napoli. Rather, it originated as a menu item at a hotel in Yokohama shortly after World War II. There was also a spaghetti dish from Nagoya called Milanese, which likewise has no connection to the Italian city of Milan. Didn't Achi order this? Oh no, he ordered spaghetti and meat sauce or something. Anyway, he might not have a lot of spare time, but working on an empty stomach wouldn't do him any favors. While waiting for his order to come out, he decided to read back over the copy he'd written so far. When he looked back, the monitor screen was black yet again. Looking down his feet, he saw the power cable was now unplugged. Hey, what kind of cafe are you people running here? He shouted. We just hurried over looking combative. Sir, you yanked that out yourself when you stood up earlier. What? A likely story. It's the truth, sir. Minorikawa pointed at one of the customers sitting next to him. Is she telling the truth? Did I really yank my power cord out myself? The man nodded sheepishly. Yeah, well, then that's the outlet's fault for being someplace where it unplugs so easily, Minorikawa squawked. The waitress marched away, head held high. Just make sure that spaghetti's delicious, Minorikawa shouted after her. I'll do that and I'll consider us even. Oh, and load it with cheese. Lots of cheese! This guy, he plugged the power cable back in, then let out a heavy sigh. In all his writing fervor, he hadn't thought to save his work. Oh no! Always make sure to save your work to avoid losing data, honestly. Why is it that your computer only seems to freeze when you've forgotten to save your stuff, right? Just remember to save early and save often. He was probably going to have to rewrite most of what he'd done. Excuse me. Minorikawa looked up to see a young woman standing there. I'm so sorry, she said, about my father. She gave a tiny bow. Your father? Oh, the rude old man? He's just a little worked up right now. Please don't pay him any mind. These two guys in the foreground just having a great time with each other. So what, you waiting on your boyfriend? Huh? The woman was taken aback. I happened to hear you two arguing earlier. Would have been about 2 hours ago? Oh, I see. An awkward, embarrassed smile came to the woman's face. I thought he was going to ask my father for permission to marry me, so we've been waiting for him, but he hasn't shown up? No, he must be really busy. She cast her eyes down sadly. Minorikawa took a better look at her. She was gorgeous. A woman with her looks wasn't something he saw every day, that was for sure. Say, would you mind talking with me for a bit? He asked. Me? Yeah, I kinda need to turn my mood around here. Well, okay, at least until my father gets back. The woman cast an anxious look toward the restrooms. What's her name? Rumi. She sat down across from him. Wait a second, aren't you? Minorikawa peered at Rumi's face. One of those twins that was chosen as Miss Midoriyama? Rumi shook her head. No, not me. No? Darn, didn't think I'd be that lucky. He took a sip of his now cold coffee. I do know the girls are talking about, though, Rumi said. Oh god, that's a great picture. Minorikawa spat out his coffee in surprise. Rumi squeaked in alarm as the spray splattered her face, but Minorikawa leaned in unconcerned. You jerk. You mean it? You really know them? Yes, Rumi replied. You're talking about the Osawa twins, right? She got a handkerchief and wiped the coffee from her face as she spoke. Osawa, huh? Minorikawa glanced down the project proposal on the table. Sexy squared. The twins share top prize at local university beauty contest. Midoriyama Academy, Maria and Hitomi Osawa. Yeah, that's it. The Osawa twins. I actually won Miss Midoriyama myself a few years ago. This year I served as one of the judges. Really? Wow, okay. Interesting connection there. Huh. Minorikawa adopted a self-satisfied pose. Guess I really was born under the right sign to be a freelancer. The leads just come to me. Sure, Rumi muttered. Okay, let's talk basics then. Tell me what you know about these girls. Well, I don't really know them personally. Rumi continued to dab at the coffee on her face, but now that you ask, I do remember hearing that they'd enter the contest separately. Wait, separately? Now Minorikawa was a little bit confused. Yeah, that's right. I'd assumed they entered as a pair, but apparently not. I wonder why. I mean, they're twins. Don't they look alike? Wear the same clothes? Do everything together? And say the same things at the same time and stuff? Rumi chuckled and shook her head. No, not at all. Besides, these two aren't identical. They're fraternal twins, she said. Twins who were born at the same time from two eggs that were fertilized separately. Fraternal twins do not share the same genetic information. They can differ in such characteristics as sex and blood type, though there are cases of fraternal twins resembling one another almost as closely as identical twins. Maria and Hitomi Osawa happen to look very closely alike, but they do not have the same blood type. And that's going to be important because of the experimentation that they've been doing. Okay. Although at a glance they do look very similar, still, how should I put this? They both give off a very different impression. Oh? Now that sounds interesting. Mind explaining what you mean? Minorikawa opened his memo pad. I talked to them briefly after the awards ceremony. The oldest sister struck me as really energetic, but the younger one was more quiet and reserved. Minorikawa's investigative senses were tingling. I wouldn't figure a shy girl would want to enter campus beauty contest. I suppose not, no. Yeah, I don't suppose you've got anything juicier, Minorikawa asked. Rumi frowned. Would you like to go and ask them yourself? She said. They don't live very far from here. Whoa, hold the phone! Minorikawa could hardly believe what had just fallen into his lap. The advanced info in the project proposal had mentioned the girls were students at Midoriyama, but he hadn't given an actual address. If he could talk to them directly, now that would be pay dirt. You know where they live? Well, not exactly. I just heard that they lived in Shoto. Ah, Shoto! That wasn't very far away. A car or motorcycle could get there in about 10 minutes. Be quicker than going to Midoriyama Academy, and he'd be able to meet the girls themselves. Minorikawa flashed a quick look toward the restroom. It looked like Rumi's father had just got back. Sorry, she said, I should be going. No problem, and thank you. Rumi gave him a quick nod, then hurried back to her seat. Oh, he's going to get himself actually involved now. Minorikawa grabbed the directory from the public phone and flipped through the pages. To his surprise, there were only 5 listings for the name Osawa with the address in Shoto. There was neither a Maria nor a Hitomi, but he hadn't expected there to be. He needed to find their parents. Wasting no time, he called up the first Osawa on the list. Bingo! Minorikawa couldn't help but pump his fist in excitement. He got in the right place in the first try. Way to go, me! He committed the house number listed in the phone book to memory. Just then, the waitress reappeared with a disgruntled expression and Minorikawa's order of spaghetti Neapolitan. Here you are, sir. Oh my god, that's a lot of cheese. Oh? The pasta was piled high with an impressive mound of grated cheese. It almost looked like a miniature mountain of snow. You did say lots of cheese, sir, the waitress told him. She set down a canister of cheese and a bottle of Tabasco. A sauce made by the US-based McIlhenny company consisting of hot peppers, green vinegar, and rock salt. Known for its distinctive spiciness, it can make spaghetti and pizza quite tasty with the addition of just a few drops. Tabasco also goes pretty well with ramen and curry. Recommended for times when flavor is lacking a little punch. However, when even one drop may be too much for those who can't handle spicy things. It has been claimed that Tabasco was first imported to Japan by a certain well-known former pro wrestler, but this story is untrue. I love Tabasco sauce. Oh, this looks good, Minorikawa exclaimed. He twirled some spaghetti up with his fork and shoved it in his mouth. Slightly sour sweetness of the ketchup blended perfectly with the mellow flavor of the cheese. Oh, that is tasty! There was nothing like satisfying grub to lift the spirits. He turned back to his laptop, still wolfing down the spaghetti. Alright, we're back in action, let's do this! Yet again, he unthinkingly blurred his words aloud as he slipped back into writing mode. I've got this, I got this! With ketchup smeared around his mouth, he set his fingers tapping away at the keys. The waitress let out another groan of dismay. Huh? You say something? Minorikawa glanced his direction, but the waitress faked a smile. No, sir, I don't think so. Yeah, well then go away, you're distracting me. The moment he looked away, she clenched her fist in indignation. Huh? Nothing, sir. Good luck with your work, sir. I don't need luck. I got this. Eyes jumping back and forth between pasta and computer, Minorikawa got to work in his copy once more. Before long, he was oblivious to every sound in the cafe around him. This guy. When he finally snapped out of writing mode, he glanced at his watch. It was 2:20. Almost time for him to head to his next interview. Better get a move on. Kimizuka's taxi came by just as Minorikawa was hurrying out of the cafe. Well, what a pleasant surprise, Minorikawa called out. Nice timing, my man. Kimizuka's startled look quickly vanished behind an expression of professional resignation. Do you need a ride, sir? You know it, Minorikawa replied. First, head to Shoto. After that, I'll need to get to Sakuragaoka. He cast his gaze out on the sights of the city. As he cast his gaze out on the sights of the city, that pasta does look tasty. Minorikawa mulled over his plan for the next part of the day. First, he'd interview the Miss Midoriyama girls. Then he'd meet with the head of that theater troupe. In order to leave himself enough time to write his copy, that meant... I'd like to get this all wrapped up in 20 minutes, he said. Can you make that happen? Kimizuka flashed a grin. That will incur a special fare, sir. Oh, special, Minorikawa said as he got settled in his seat. I love that word. Kimizuka stepped on the gas. Shibuya was a town of contrasts. Hey look, it's the Shibuya crossing. You know, the one that's in every single Japanese video game ever. There's a town of young people, unpretentious, energetic. I can't believe they have Shibuya crossing from Persona 5 here. The Scramble intersection and center guy perfectly conveyed that vibrancy. However, if one turned right at the 109 building and head down Bunkumori, the town's whole atmosphere changed. Shoto was one of Shibuya's, indeed one of Tokyo's, most upscale residential districts. Wherever one looked, there were stately manor houses giving off an imposing air, sending the message that this was no place for the common folks. Right here is fine. Minorikawa directed Kimizuka to pull over. Wait here for me. I'll be right back. Hopping out of the taxi, check the nameplates of the nearby homes. Ah, here we go. He spotted a nameplate that read Osawa. Kenji Osawa, huh? The name nagged at him somehow. It had been in the back of his mind ever since he'd seen it in the phone book back at the cafe. Had he heard it someplace before? He's gonna get in a lot of trouble here. Like, the police are all here. He's gonna knock on the door and be like, hey, can I talk to your daughters? He's gonna get arrested. He walked up to the gate and pressed the button for the intercom. Even the little chime it made when pressed sounded elegant. Minorikawa waited, but there was no response. He looked at his watch. It was 2:30 now. His interview with Shinnosuke Orai of the Wandering Angels was supposed to have started already. Yummy pasta! Did that? There we go. That took a while. My Discord is my XSplit is chugging today. I don't know why. I mean, I kind of do know why, but one second. This might break everything, but it should stop chugging as much now. What is this? Point slurs, okay. It should chug less now. But yeah, thank you for the bits. Wandering Angels, Episode 3. With the help of Shinichi Bando, Mondo was able to get out of his apartment. Then, when all the players had finally assembled, the troupe proceeded with one last rehearsal before showtime. But again, tragedy struck. Mondo came down with food poisoning after eating his lunch. He was rushed to the hospital in an ambulance, and the Angels were once again Yo! AIT Kitchen? Hello! Thank you so much for the raid. I actually have a raid thing. One second. Gas, brilliant, excellent, yes. Thank you so much. One second. I got a raid thing. We have a raid video. Hope you're doing well. I'm gonna use this opportunity to take a drink. Thank you. One day I'll work on making this shorter, but for now, that is not that day. That's loud. That's probably very loud, and I'm sorry. Anyway, AIT Kitchen. Thank you for the raid. Sorry about your face. I know that's Kappa, but I always think it should come. You know, it's funny. I always thought that was Nintendo Capri-Sun, honestly. Anyway, Paint Chipper and Kitchen. Hello. Andrew in the kitchen. That's my brain, just the two brain cells. I'm like, I know this name. Paint Chipper's from Steven's Community. Good. My brain cells aligned to remember a name. I'm sorry. Andrew and Paint Chipper, thank you so much. I hope your stream went well. We're playing, and thank you for the follow as well. We're playing 428 Shibuya Scramble, which is an interesting visual novel by Spike Chunsoft, or from, the people there, which has involved a kidnapping, hostage negotiation, a girl stuck in a mascot costume for several hours, and hijinks ensuing, a deadly virus possibly being released upon mankind. It's been wild so far. Right now we're following a reporter who is about to accidentally meet with the family of the kidnapped girl. If you mean internet problem is going well, then sure, lol. Well, I'm sorry that your internet was poopy, but I appreciate you stopping by. Pupcake. Well, good news, you are indeed awesome. Thank you for redeeming the points. But yeah, Always good to remind you that you and everyone here really, but are in fact fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for being you. And everyone else here as well. Thank you for being you. But anyway, we're learning about the Wandering Angels here. So he was rushed to the hospital in an ambulance, and the Angels was once again lacking an actor for the key role of Shido. Orai was on the verge of panic. Finally, however, he came up with a solution. Novice actor Takiya Amo, age 31, would take on the part. Continued episode 4. Cheering thing. I actually heard it this time. It didn't... The cheering thing usually doesn't play for me, but maybe it's just not loud enough on my end. But this game is very interesting with the visual novel aspects, because they took actual photographs like of all the actors and stuff. AlecMan3000, hello, how are you doing? Thank you for stopping by here as well. So like it's all actual photographs, and it's hilarious, really. I decided to wait a bit longer. No, we're gonna wait here. Just 5 more minutes. Front door opened. Yeah, there he is. Okay. The grim-looking man emerged, leading another man in handcuffs. What? What happened here that you got arrested? Minorikawa was standing in their way. Pardon us, the serious-looking fellow said. I love this game. Unfortunately, didn't see play from the start. Yeah, this game has been fantastic so far. I would say we're a little past halfway through. Minorikawa smelled the distinct odor of a scoop. Hey, does that guy live here? He asked. The man ignored him and kept moving. Minorikawa followed. He couldn't let this opportunity pass him by. Hey, wait up! Is that Mr. Osawa? With a grimace, the man pushed Minorikawa aside and hurried his handcuffed prisoner along. For a moment, Minorikawa wondered if he should keep after them, but he decided against it. Whatever was going on here, he doubted he'd be able to get an interview with the twin girls right now. This had all been an unfortunate waste of time. I found one of my favorite personality from this game. There's a lot of great characters. He had no real choice but to head to the next interview. Okay, where we left Osawa, I don't remember him being arrested, so I don't know what happened there. A few minutes later, the rear tire skidded sharply as the cab came to a stop beside a different curb. The trip from show to the theater in Sakuragaoka had taken almost no time at all. Here we are, sir, Kimizuka announced. Wow, that was fast. Still, Minorikawa was at least 5 minutes behind schedule. He hoped he'd still be able to get to interview with ORI. Oh. Okay, we're stuck here until we do something else. So let's see. Where were we with you? Was there a jump we could do here? No, we did that. Oh no, we couldn't do that because right. Because we had to go through Kano's stuff. So who's my favorite character? It's been Tama / Maria. 100%. Okay, so last time we left Kano, who is the investigator, or the detective who's trying to find the kidnapped girl and with the money handoff and stuff. They had just come to, he and Stanley, the CIA agent, had just come to the bad guy's hideout here and found a whole load of dead people and one guy that, before dying, just said the name Kanan, who is a assassin girl that we met in a different route. Kanan? Kano muttered. What's Kanan? The stench of blood hung heavy in the basement bar. This guy with his watermelon juice on his neck, poor guy. Turns out he's allergic. Stanley was silent, staring at the criminal's corpse. Hey, do you know anything about this? Kano asked. Still, Stanley gave no response. The silent treatment again, huh? Kano huffed. The American glanced at him gravely. In all likelihood, the one who did this was acting alone. Alone? Against this many other people? Who on earth? There's no need for you to know. Cut the crap, Kano snapped. He grabbed Stanley by the collar. If there's someone involved in this case who's capable of something like this, I need to know about it. How am I supposed to do my job if you keep me in the dark? Stanley remained stone-faced. Look, I'm not afraid of the risks, Kano said. I'll be a lot more effective if you at least fill me in on the basics here. The more you know, the sooner you'll wind up dead. Kano tightened his grip. But it's okay if I wind up dead while I'm still in the dark, huh? Fine, Stanley said. I'll answer your first question. He brushed Kano's arm aside. Kanan is the name of a covert operative from the Middle East. In simple terms, a type of spy that infiltrates hostile territory to carry out various clandestine activities. I believe she's the one who killed these people here. The Middle East? A covert operative? Kano hadn't expected spycraft to be involved with this. Yeah, she's an assassin and a cryptanalyst specialist. Cryptanalysis. You recall the mass jailbreak from the Abu Ghraib prison a while back? A prison in Iraq west of Baghdad. Under the Hussein government, it was an internment facility for political prisoners, but following the Iraq War, it was used by the U.S. Army to house prisoners of war. In April of 2004, photographs of detainees being tortured by U.S. soldiers were released, causing a massive scandal. President Bush later made the decision to have the facility demolished. I remember that. Kanan was the one who provided the intel the escapees used to get out. Oh wow. Kano was at a loss for words. The case was suddenly starting to seem a whole lot more sinister. Whoever this Kanan was, she'd apparently killed nearly a dozen people with only a knife. She was clearly no one to trifle with. She's also friends with Maria, so not necessarily the worst person. She was just what kind of individual are they dealing with here? He could scarcely imagine. Once again, Kano surveyed the crime scene. Each of the murdered criminals each had his throat slit. From the look of the deep, clean cuts, the killer hadn't hesitated in the slightest. Okay, so what connection does this Kanan have with the mastermind behind the kidnapping? If Kanan killed all the foreign syndicate members in this bar, did that mean she and the person behind the kidnapping were enemies? Or perhaps she and the kidnapper were working in concert and she'd carry out the slayings as part of some plan to get rid of some loose ends? I believe I'd said I'd answer one question. Turning away, Stanley picked up a file from a nearby table. Apparently he wasn't in the sharing mood. Realizing that further questions would be pointless, Kano peered sidelong at the file as Stanley opened it. Inside was a detailed map of Shibuya. There are various routes marked with arrows and times. That's the plan for the ransom relay. Kano was so excited he blurted his thoughts out loud. It appeared that the ultimate goal for the ransom was a condominium. The address and the time 1420 were written in red ink. Kano put in an immediate call to the investigation task force to relay this information. The final destination is Ground Hill number 405 in Hiro 5-34, Shibuya. Alright, Kuze told him, we'll look into who owns the condo in question. You and Stanley head over there now. I'm sending back up to go in with you. You have authorization to apprehend the suspect. Finally hearing the order that he'd so long been waiting for, Kano felt sparks of determination flare inside him. Alright, let's go, he said, some of the excitement slipping into his voice. Stanley still saw him close the file and follow him out of the bar. I don't trust Stanley. I still don't trust Stanley. Stanley drove along Inokashira Dori toward Hiro, where the finish line for the ransom relay was located. His demeanor was cold and brooding, in sharp contrast with Kano's gung-ho readiness. He seemed lost in some deep and cheerless thought. Kuze's voice came in over the wireless as the car came out onto Meiji Dori. We've identified the owner of the condominium. It's... Kano held his breath in anticipation. The name Kuze spoke caught him by surprise, entirely. It's Tanaka, right? Alright, okay, so in order to finish this, we need to go jump from over here, I think. Reload the page I saw the earlier threaded gun. It's pretty honey regular. Is it this? There we go. Okay. We identified the owner of the condominium. It's Mamoru Tanaka. Yeah, so we found that out on Osawa's side of things. He's a colleague of Kenji Osawa. What? Kano squawked. This was an unexpected twist. Kajiwara confirmed that Tanaka left the Osawa residence just after 1400 hours. No word on his movements since then. It's possible he headed to his private condo where the attaché case is slated to end up. Any officer who runs across Tanaka is to apprehend him on sight. So previously we had suspected Tanaka because he had a bug on him, but it turns out that it was Osawa's wife who did that, and then we let him go. But then we found out that he is where the place is. His house is where the bad guy's place is. Like, what the heck? Kuze cut the connection. This mastermind you've been chasing, Kano asked. Is it Tanaka? Stanley didn't reply. Fine, never mind. I just wish I could know if Teteno is safe. Still worried about that traitor, huh? So Stanley could ignore all his questions, but still remember to make snide remarks. Talking about Teteno is the only thing that gets a reaction out of you, isn't it? Kano snorted. What makes you so certain he can't be a traitor? Teteno just isn't like that. That's not an answer, Stanley scoffed. Alright, I've watched the man work for years. I know him. He has no reason to betray the Force. You watched him work, huh? What about his private life, then? You know all about that, too? He hasn't had money trouble or anything like that? Kano felt his blood starting to boil. I don't care what you think, he said. I trust Detective Teteno. Trust him? On what basis? I don't need any basis to have faith in someone, Kano snapped. That ain't basis in fact, it's just plain sentimentality, Stanley said. There's no reason or logic to it. A thin smile came to his face. Be they friends or family, you can never really know other people. The only person you can trust is yourself. Kano no response was such an emotionless statement. He looked away. He and Stanley were just plain incompatible. It seemed like no amount of talking would let them get through to one another. Never take anything at face value, Kano. You start trusting too much, you're basically as good as dead. Kano just stared out the window. Definitely very pessimistic. The Shibuya precinct came into view. Tanaka's condo wasn't much further now. They were just outside Tanaka's condo now. Over there, Stanley said, keeping his voice down. Across the street, one of the foreign syndicate members, walking briskly, the attaché case clutched to his side. I'm making the arrest. Kano, wait! Stanley exclaimed. Kano heard him loud and clear, but he had no intention of stopping. He approached with the criminal at full speed, then leapt to tackle him around the waist. The two men fell to the pavement in a tangled heap. The collision sent the attaché case flying. Kano's eyes tracked the case for a moment too long. He was caught off guard when the man threw a punch at him. The blow caught him right in the jaw, snapping his head back. Ooh! For a moment, Kano saw stars. As he shook off the impact, the man sprang to his feet and sprinted away in the direction of Stanley's car. Stanley! Kano shouted. Grab him! Stanley ignored the man and instead went for the attaché case. Oh, come on, really? Kano had no choice but to pursue the perp himself. He hadn't come this far just to let the crooks get away now. Suddenly, the fleeing man skidded to a stop. This guy looks like he belongs in the Hobbit movies, I don't know. Several cars had pulled across the road ahead and detectives were pouring out of them. His escape route cut off, the criminal resigned himself to capture. While Kano helped make the arrest, several of the other detectives broke into Tanaka's condo. Stanley, meanwhile, was carefully inspecting the exterior of the attaché case. He'd already opened it. It was stuffed with bundles of banknotes. The 50 million yen ransom was back in police hands. This is a decoy, the American muttered under his breath. I wonder where... His words trailed off, but Kano had heard them. What'd you expect? The detective demanded samples of that new drug in there? As usual, Stanley gave no reply. The look on his face, however, told Kano he'd been right on the mark. Some of the backup team emerged from Tanaka's condo. Kano turned to them, feeling a sudden surge of anxiety for Maria. What's the situation in there? He asked. They told him that they'd found no one in Tanaka's rooms, so the hostage's status remained unknown and the main culprit had evaded capture. The case had been solved. In fact, it was still unfolding in the worst way conceivable. And still Stanley remained focused on the attaché case, pondering it with a thoughtful expression. Look, Kano told him, I'm going to request that I be returned to my normal duties. Maria still needs to be rescued, and I still need to find out what happened to Tomi Detective Teteno. For once, Stanley actually responded. Hitomi? Yes, that's it. It makes perfect sense that they'd have her carry it. Huh? What do you mean? This whole attaché case relay was a fake out. Whoa, slow down, Kano said, wishing he would calm himself with his words. Explain what you're talking about. Somehow the kidnappers made contact with Kenji Osawa and got him to have Hitomi carry the drugs separate from the ransom. Wait, you're saying that had Hitomi bring them the drug? Stanley nodded. The case handoffs were a sort of camouflage way for them to keep the police distracted from their real goal. Huh. Interesting, okay. Kano nodded. It indeed felt like the case relay was a decoy in an attempt to buy time. That would explain why they've been able to track Hitomi everywhere. But where are they keeping it? I know they've been tracking her phone, but like, where the heck has she been keeping it? If the syndicate were after something else entirely, that would explain why so many of their actions had appeared to make no sense. So, Kano asked, what sort of drug is this? Why would they go to such lengths to get their hands on it? It's an antiviral, Stanley replied after some hesitation. A way to cure people infected with a very particular virus. Or maybe she's the antiviral. It's in her blood or something? What virus are we talking about? It's called UA. Kano never heard of it. Still, he could imagine the possibilities. Suppose this UA was something like the Ebola virus. Discovered in Sudan in 1976, infection causes Ebola hemorrhagic fever, resulting in a high fever and massive bleeding throughout the body. At present, there is no vaccine to prevent infection, nor any drug to cure the disease after it manifests. Or perhaps HIV. Human immunodeficiency virus. HIV destroys the cells that are essential for regulating cell-mediated immunity, considerably reducing immune responses. This effect can result in infections that would ordinarily be fought off or easily developing into serious illnesses. There are various treatments, but as of yet, nothing that will eradicate the virus completely. Even the ultra-familiar influenza, an infectious disease caused by the influenza virus. Symptoms are similar to that of the common cold, but are much more severe, occasionally resulting in death. There are three main types of the virus, A, B, and C, with A and B causing the typical run of the illness in humans. Neuraminidase is recommended as an effective inhibitor, but this merely alleviates the symptoms. It is not a complete cure. Interesting. There are medicines that can treat all of those diseases, but nothing that can cure them completely. Any drug that could do that would be worth vast sums of money. Loads of money! Kano, do you have any means of getting in touch with Mr. Osawa? Yeah, I know one of the detectives stationed at his home. Check in with him ASAP. Find out whether or not he gave the antiviral to Hitomi. Kano suppressed a scowl. It looked like he wasn't done assisting Stanley yet. He got out his cell phone and dialed up Kajiwara. Kajiwara picked up promptly. Kano, what's going on? Can I speak with Mr. Osawa? I suppose that'd be alright. What for, though? There's something I need him to confirm for me. It's an emergency. Alright, just make sure not to tell him anything about the investigation. Sure thing. After a while, a man's hoarse voice came over the line. Osawa speaking. Can I help you? This is Detective Kano from the Shibuya precinct. Time is critical, so I need to just cut to the chase here. Kano took a deep breath. Did you give the antiviral drug to your daughter Hitomi? Osawa let out a gasp. Oh boy. Okay, so this is the second area where, yeah, over here, this jump. What? Osawa was so startled his voice caught in his throat. What are you talking about? The antiviral research was top secret. How did some detectives from Shibuya precinct know about it? And let's jump back. Okay. Right back to Kano. And that means that we're done with the bad end over there, I think. Did you give the antiviral drug to your daughter Hitomi? Osawa let out a gasp. What are you talking about? I'm the one asking questions here, Mr. Osawa. Did you give the antiviral drug to your daughter Hitomi? I'm not sure I understand the question. Osawa's voice trembled as he spoke. Kano was sure he'd hit the nail right on the head. I know what the syndicate is really after, Mr. Osawa. It's the virus. Osawa remained silent. Yeah, let's jump back over to him. We're just jumping all over the place here. What are you talking about? Yeah, how did some detective Shibuya? Osawa's bewildered. I'm the one asking questions here, Mr. Osawa. Did you give the antiretroviral drug to your daughter Otome? I'm not sure I understand the question. I know what the syndicate is really after, Mr. Osawa. Yeah, this is... We saw this part already. The detective continued after a moment. Is everything alright? Without really thinking, Osawa hung up. Oh, are we still gonna get the same bad end here? They were after the virus? Did they mean the UA virus kept at the lab? Wait, hold on. Detective had to be wrong about that. The kidnappers must have the UA virus already. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had to do what I did to Otome. Yeah. So he did give it to her. Like actually give it to her. Osawa understood what those emails from A were about. They were a preview of the tragedy that was yet to unfold. The kidnapper probably meant to start the main event soon. Yeah, we saw this also. A killer virus is about to be unleashed in Tokyo, and I know who's responsible. Yeah. Okay, please arrest me. Okay, so we're over here also. He held both his wrists. I'll tell you everything down at the station. Anything you need to know. Yeah, we saw this part also. All Japan might be engulfed in a pandemic. I could only hope that his complying with the authorities might help stop the spread of the infection before it's too late. Oh, so no, this is the same bad end that we had before. That's weird. Okay, well... Yeah, guilty conscience. We saw this. So what was... I guess we just need to stick with Kano's route then. Fine.